Hello and welcome to This Week in Metropolis. The transmission will begin shortly.
King P here,
And Steely07.
and here is another episode of This Week in Metropolis. And just to start us off, can you tell me, a little quiz to put you on the spot here, can you tell me what you think the most popular or highest grossing film in America at this moment is?
Most grossing film in America right now?
Right now, yeah. So based on I can't remember how they do it. Yeah, the weekend figures, I think it is. Looking at this article is what they've based it on.
I'd have no idea. What? Because I thought that would have been based on films in the cinema.
Yeah, it is films in cinema because with as yeah, it's a strange phenomenon in the UK. We're experiencing lockdown and things are slowly opening, whereas in America it seems that largely things are
Carrying on.
They're carrying on regardless, and there are cinemas that are open. So yeah, what do you think is the highest grossing film of the moment?
Oh God! Do you know what? I'm so out of touch with what films have come out because all the films that we're thinking of are ones that are due to be released now in the coming months. Like Tenet, for example, is the big one that everyone's talking about.
And James Bond was supposed to come out, wasn't it?
You know, there's Marvel films on the horizon. So no, I wouldn't have a clue. It surprised me.
It is a surprise because I was surprised when I read this earlier. The highest grossing film in the US at the moment is Jurassic Park from 1993.
Wow! They re-released it?
Yeah, it seems that they re-released it. So currently, number one is Jurassic Park, which took $500,000 last weekend. So clearly, not a lot of cinemas are open. The 1993 classic. Number two was Jaws. So
this is bizarre.
And Back to the Future and E.T. were number 9 and number 10.
Well, I mean,
Not sure what was in between, but
it's amazing that they're re-releasing films like that. I mean, we have obviously in the UK, you have a lot of what do they refer to them as? The ones where you pull up in your car and watch film. They open air drive-in cinemas or open air cinemas, something like that. And you'll see throughout the summer usually they put on kind of. They've actually become more prominent, I think, over the last kind of 3-4 years, and they'll put on the classic films.
Yeah.
But one that I did actually read, which kind of might tie in a little bit with what film companies are doing, is to do with Tenet, because it was due for release, I believe, kind of middle of July.
I think
so. And what they're doing instead now, they've actually pushed that back till the end of July, and replacing that, they're bringing out one of your favourite films and mine, which was now is escaping me. What was the classic
Debbie
one?
Does Dallas.
No,
recently sold to Music Magpie.
No, Inception.
Inception.
Because it's I want to say 10-year anniversary.
It really?
It's a big anniversary of it, however many years. Yeah. But because obviously Christopher Nolan, he's done Tenet, he done Inception. So instead, they're re-releasing that. I'm guessing just because cinemas in the UK specifically, and I'm sure in other countries haven't fully opened yet. But that's that actually leads me on to a topic that really well actually, which is to do with cinemas reopening, because we obviously in the UK found out yesterday that cinemas is one of the things that's going to be reopening from the 4th of July.
Yeah.
And a question that I've seen cropped up, and I'm going to take full credit for asking you, is would you go?
It's funny you say. I was thinking about this a minute ago because looking at that article and thinking about actually, cinemas being open and things like that. And I don't think I would, because to me, it's sort of, I know it bends all the from the point of view of being in lockdown, and there's such strict criteria in terms of who you can meet, who you can't meet, how many people you can mix with, and so on and so on. The nature of cinema is you're sat in a room together with hundreds of other people. I know they'll probably, I don't know how they're going to do it, whether it's going to be like every other seat or whatever, but it seems like you're actively encouraging not social distancing as such. If you think you go in, you queue up, you got that little tunnel you walk through, you're next to loads of different people in front of you, behind you. How's it going to work? They're big rooms.
And in a room, an air-conditioned room, so it's all filtering round if there is someone in there. You'd like to think that people who have got symptoms aren't going to be going, but I
that's one of the things. You saying air conditioning. I'm right in the beginning of this, the pandemic. I remember reading this article about it was about travelling, and it was said about how cruise ships, for example, because cruise ships were really badly hit. And one of the reasons they were really badly hit is because they have air conditioning systems, and it just recycles. It doesn't even recycle. It just redistributes that same air all around the place. Whereas planes are much, much better, because planes use a mixture of purified air and I think air from outside. So it's cleansing it as it goes along, because you're just in a little metal tin sort of in the sky as such. So that's okay. It's more touch there. But you'd think, exactly, aircon, cinemas have been the same. It'd just be breathing everyone else's breath hundreds of times.
Yeah, I think something I saw someone say was they weren't sure they'd be able to sit in a cinema wearing a mask as well. Like, because obviously they're recommending that you wear face masks when you're in these sort of public environments, same as on transport as well. And I think some people weren't sure about that. How are you going to sit there and eat your popcorn with a mask on, or drink your drink? Do you know what I mean? There's so many different kind of conundrums which aren't obviously big world issues, but
and how are they going to keep it clean? I know, again, from the slightly different sort of level of cleanliness, but from personal experience, you're there, you try and open your bottle, you might spill a bit of drink, you'd spill a bit of popcorn on the floor because you're in quite an enclosed space and that. I know they come in and tidy up a little bit, but
in the dark.
But they're gonna have to wipe every seat.
That's what I mean. So it's a big job. It is a big job.
It's an unusual choice to bring back, I think, isn't it? But
going back to your point with regards to what is the highest grossing film at the moment, have they just re-released all these because a lot of film companies have put movies on hold?
I think so, and it did tie in with Father's Day. At the weekend as such. I think that it was maybe a sort of a special for that, and also linked to the fact that, as you said, a lot of the films that should be around at the moment are non-existent as such, because they've been delayed or released on a streaming site and all of those sort of things, haven't they?
How long do you think? Sorry, I'm fluttering between the two topics that we just mentioned there. How long do you think you would leave it before you would go to the cinema again?
Forever.
Until there's a vaccine. And then I'm going.
It's funny though, like saying that is quite a bold statement, but I think we spoke about this separately, but there have been lots of films, not necessarily film. Well, no, it's a lie. Like 21 Bridges, we was talking about that recently. Fantastic film. That's the kind of film you'd see at the cinema. Watched it at home, brilliant. Didn't really miss anything. I think, and sort of not necessarily a film of my choice, but one that was a similar principle. Trolls World Tour. The kids absolutely love it. That was supposed to be a cinema release. They put it straight to rental.
Yeah,
was successful that way. The only thing I think you'd miss out on the film like Tenet, for example, which seen the IMAX trailer with, what's that with? Star Wars. Star Wars or Avengers? I can't remember what one it was.
It was Star Wars, you went,
phenomenal. No, just the way Christopher Nolan makes films needs to be appreciated with the sound and so on. So you would miss a bit, but I don't think, there's not that longing that I have. Oh God, I wish I could go to the cinema.
And do you think that's different now because tech in homes, you know, TV systems and things like that is so much more advanced now
Yeah,
than what it was, you know, 15 years ago.
yeah, possibly.
Um,
And
yeah,
we discussed, not necessarily discussing, but I shared that link with you last night. In fact, you can buy a 65-inch TV for £399, I think it
yeah,
was.
yeah.
Insane, you know. And the fair enough, it may not be as good as some of the ones that cost
Higher end ones, yeah.
the higher end ones, but you know, that's pretty close to a cinema experience in your own home, isn't it? Watching a film on something like that, and
Yeah.
the fact that a lot of these streaming services now do it in like ultra high definition and that sort of thing. What are you missing, really? But
No, I'd agree.
no, film related as well. It's the other gem that I've sort of discovered in the last couple of days, is that it's rumoured. I don't know if you've heard this. It's rumoured that Michael Keaton is in talks to return as Batman. How about that?
I saw that. I I think there's mixed thoughts on this as well. I mean, because I haven't read the full article, so you might need to tell me a bit more. In what film and what Spider-Man, Batman universe is this? He's not
Definitely
been,
not Spider-Man.
but he has been in Spider-Man, hasn't he?
And it's rumoured as well that or not rumoured. I think it's sort of on the cards that he's going to return as Vulture in Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's what
So
I mean.
he's still got that.
He's going to be in all of them.
All of them, every character.
But in what kind of story are they bringing this up? Because obviously we know that Robert Pattinson's going to be the next Batman.
Exactly. That's the odd thing with that. But apparently it's to be in the Flash, which they're making a film of.
Right.
It's thought that they're discussing that with him, but also the weird part, which I couldn't quite make out, is the plot of this particular film will ignore the last two Batman films. It doesn't mention anything about the Christopher Nolan ones, but ignore the last two Batman films and continue on after Batman Returns.
Wow. So that's
Yeah,
that's a
which
right jump back.
but was he in Batman Returns? Because he was in the first Tim Burton one, and then I can't remember what the second Tim Burton one was called. So Batman, I guess that was Batman Returns.
Oh, I thought he only done the one.
No, I think he did two of them, because the other ones, George Clooney did one.
Didn't Val Kilmer do one?
Val Kilmer did one, yeah.
It's interesting when you've got, see, that kind of blurs the lines a bit for me, where you've got kind of, and the same happened when you had the Justice League one, because you had TV shows going on at the same time, which were actually doing really well. Of the Flash and of Arrow and things like that, and they all kind of merged into one show as well. And then you had the Justice League where you had different characters. So for me, that kind of blurs the lines a little bit.
Yeah.
For me personally, I'd much rather see something and then start afresh with something else rather than two things going on at the same time.
Is that because you're in tune with the Marvel universe, though, where it's very much, here's a character and we're going to follow that character throughout the entire arc of the stories.
And they even done that with their spin-off TV shows. When you think The Shield had Agent Coulson in it, who was really the only one from the movie franchise that you would have,
a good character.
Yeah, you would have known if all of a sudden you had a different Thor coming up or a different Iron Man, it just would have. It would have felt like a cheap version of it. And I'm not saying that the movie version of, say, the Justice League, it's just the way round it was done. You got used to a character for a certain amount of time, and then you introduce him again in a different setting. Do you know what I mean? It's just a bit weird. Yeah, but I had seen that. Yeah.
And Batman, I've just looked at Batman Returns was the sequel to the 1989 Batman. So Michael Keaton was in it. It was the one with Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman and Danny DeVito as the Penguin. So they've binned off the other two films, which I don't think were particularly good anyway. But I can't even remember what they were called. There's one with Batman and Robin.
Was that the one with Arnie in it as
Mr. Freeze?
Mr. Freeze, yeah. some great lines there. We're going to have to do an episode where we just talk about all the great lines from Arnie films because there's so many.
It's endless. Yeah.
It's endless. But yeah, yeah. I mean, Batman. Wow, we could talk about Batman movies and how they peaked at the Dark Knight trilogy. I think.
Yeah.
I don't think people. Was you a fan of the original one that had Michael Keaton in? That was your favourite one, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Before the Dark Knight, definitely it was, because that one I saw. I remember it was one of the first 12 films, and I would have been 11 at the time. And I remember sort of my mum taking me to see it, and it was a bit dangerous because I weren't like 12 at the time and that sort of thing. Thinking, wow, and just absolutely loving it, and having that. And that was one of the first. They did a comic book of the film as well, so it was like a comic book interpretation of the film, and I remember having that as well. And that was one of the first sort of comic books I bought as well. Loved it, absolutely loved that film, and still do. I think it looks a bit dated, but in a good way, because it was such a stylized version of Gotham and the whole thing. And Jack Nicholson as the Joker.
He was awesome.
Yeah, he was brilliant. So yeah.
Changing gears slightly, moving over to gaming. Obviously, last week we did mention, I think, that The Last of Us Part 2 was being released last week. I was reading an article, I don't know if you've seen it, about it possibly being the most accessible game ever.
Accessible game ever?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And the reason for that, there's a video doing the rounds by a guy called Steve Saylor.
Right.
Which he posted
Great name.
Which he posted on Twitter, and I hadn't read the article before, and when I read the words, I mean, I don't know what you think when I say accessibility, but I was like, oh, I have no idea what he's talking about, and maybe that's.
Well, I was going to ask you in what context, how is it accessible? Yeah.
So this video is his reaction when he saw the accessibility settings. And I was like, what does this mean? And it's this guy genuinely crying, like emotional mess, because of how good it was. So you read the article further, and it turns out this guy's blind, and it's just something I've never even considered. That how you can change, and apparently there's so many settings on this game to make it as best for people who are blind, people who are deaf, people who have got difficulties, with their hand-eye coordination and stuff like that. It's supposed to be incredible, and there's images, so it shows you kind of how the game looks for us, but for them, obviously, it's to do with like different light settings and things like that. So there's more vivid silhouettes of the characters and who they're trying to shoot or kill, whatever the zombies in this game. And I just thought, how incredible is that? Like,
it's amazing
to go into that sort of detail, and it's probably my ignorance of being able-seeing person that you wouldn't even consider, which kind of goes along the line of a lot of current events in the world where you don't consider other people's situations and how they have to deal with that.
It is incredible, that sort of thing, because you do, naturally, if someone is visually impaired, or if they, have any sort of disability to, they said, with coordination, it doesn't mean they don't want to play games.
Yeah.
There's still that desire there, and there's still that, interest in these things. And why shouldn't it be? If we talk enough about all the amazing technology that exists and so on. Wow, and the interest on a much lower level. On Fortnite, there are lots of color blindness settings and that, and I think there are some of those on other games. Again, you're color blind, aren't you? It's not anything that I sort of have ever experienced, but there are lots of those sort of things on there as well. So clearly, the companies are opening up to these different things. It means more people playing their games and more people integrated into it. It's nothing but a good thing, is it?
And I wonder the difference. I mean, it's something I'd probably have to look into, but I wonder the difference in other games, how if this is supposedly the best, they reckon could be the best one ever. And I've actually seen friends of mine who I know aren't necessarily blind or impaired in any way, also mention the same thing. So whether they've just read the article or heard it from friends of theirs, but there seems to be just really good, reviews on. I mean, the game's supposed to be incredible anyway, although I know someone who thinks it's overrated. But the game's supposed to be incredible, and that's just another string to its bow, really.
Yeah. On a completely different note.
That's how we roll. That's how we roll.
Exactly. But very much focusing on technology and how it can make a difference. There's a special effects company that have built a robotic dolphin. And right, and
they've got too much time on their hands.
Keep with me with this. Originally, this sort of thing started about 20 years ago. The idea of a robotic dolphin, and it was an exhibition of the sea in Disney World, which had a huge aquarium, a robotic dolphin that would swim around, interact with divers, and so on. But then to develop it, they used it on a private island in the Bahamas. So people would come in on the boat, and again they could swim with this thing, this dolphin.
Were they aware that it was a robot?
They were aware it was a robot. However, even though they knew it was a robot, they still had that similar experience as to being with a dolphin. So 20 years on, and obviously the technology's been developed a huge amount since then. It's being used or sort of being developed and tested specifically for an aquarium in China, because China has put a stop to wildlife trade. I think they're particularly bad at trading wildlife, but also linked to COVID-19 and the crossover from animals to humans. But yeah, and this thing is not, it hasn't got cameras or anything on it that it can't see and move autonomously. It is controlled by a person, so it's a puppet. But it's, looking at the thing, it simulates the movements, the appearance of a bottlenose dolphin, and it's got a realistic skeleton. It's got a skin. It is literally a dolphin.
How long before they fit machine guns to it?
Well,
and weaponize it.
Weaponize the dolphins.
Because, it goes under the radar when you think of dolphins coming at you.
Isn't there a film when they weaponize dolphins? Or am I... Yes, I'm sure there's something.
Probably.
I'll look
all
that
in my
up
head at the moment. I'm thinking Sharknado. So
Sharknado.
It's definitely not that one. But I mean, I'm sure there is something like that.
But yeah, I mean, it can survive in saltwater environment for 10 years, apparently.
With no rust.
With no rust. But do you think that's because we've spoke recently? You watched Blackfish, is it called?
Yeah.
Documentaries like that that really highlight the darker side of SeaWorld and those sort of things. Would there be that same excitement for you if you went to somewhere and thought, oh, that's a nice robot dolphin?
I don't think so, really. I mean, you'd appreciate it and be amazed by it on a technological front. But I think one of the most fascinating things when you go to them, although that has kind of tainted my thoughts on it. I mean, I think certainly in the UK they're probably a lot better. There may be cases that are, not as great, but when you see them sort of shows that animals do, be it dolphins, be it sea lions or whatever, it's amazing to think that animal has been trained to be able to do that and has learned, certain tricks and skills and things like that. But, I don't think if I paid to go and see a dolphin show and it was a robot doing it, I'd be like, wow, it's amazing. You'd at the end of the day, it's no different from you doing a stunt in a car or something like that.
Well, I was going to say, it's like someone with a radio-controlled boat going around a swimming pool, isn't it?
Exactly. It kind of lessens it a little bit. But, I mean, at the same time, what you can do with that, it's a bit like when you see, not to the same level, but a lot of these like nature programs where they'll have a mechanical version of a certain animal in the middle of a desert or a jungle or something, and then you see, and it'll have a camera on it, and you see how the other animals that are the same or whatever come and interact with it, and then you get a closer view. So I don't know if they can use this to. You said it hasn't got any cameras or anything like that, but it could be something to gain more information about wild dolphins and things like that. So, I mean, any technology can be used in a positive way, I guess.
Yeah.
As long as they don't weaponize it.
As long as they don't weaponize it. Exactly.
But it is China, you said, yeah?
And replace the eyes with lasers. It's what they're going to do next.
Yeah, this is definitely a movie. They're making a movie. I can see it now.
But it's a bit, what it reminds me of is, and I don't think you've seen this film, which is very disappointing, is Blade Runner. That's all right. Yeah. We're still friends. So in Blade Runner, if you remember, animals don't exist anymore, and they have the robotic sort of people, but the animals don't exist anymore, and it's a luxury sort of item, and you have sort of snakes and owls and stuff, and they produce them to this incredibly high realistic standard.
This isn't the one with Arnie where he's running. Oh no, that's Running Man.
What are you talking about? No.
Oh, I've not seen Blade Runner.
No, not so. So our friendship is over.
That'll be the end of this week's show. Join me or King P next time on separate shows.
No, Blade Runner is Harrison Ford.
Oh, and that's the one where they brought out a sequel which you didn't enjoy?
I got through half of it. It was visually beautiful, but it had Ryan Gosling in it. So you just walked around looking moody and sort of mumbled a few words.
Sulking all the way around.
That was it. Yeah. Had Jared Leto in it as well, though. He's always good for a laugh, isn't he? Yeah. But I mean, it's something like that. If you think now, in 20 years they've got it from a sort of a fairly basic robot to something that is almost there. Imagine 20 years time, it could be a feasible thing, and it is, I guess, if there are, for educational purposes, people who haven't seen dolphins, it's not accessible, and you want to maintain the habitats in these animals. It's a good halfway, isn't it?
You think about kind of what a good experience that'd be for like kids with disabilities or adults with disabilities, where it might not be safe for them, because of their handling of the dolphin or whatever. It could be a little bit erratic or something like that.
Or overwhelming.
Yeah, exactly, and that would be a lot safer thing for them to do, to have a kind of experience. Yeah. Or
it could open up. We spoke about Tiger King. It could open up the possibility that if you wanted a dolphin in your bath at home or whatever, get a robot dolphin. Can ride it.
Solved. I mean, my bath's I'd probably need a bigger bath. We can look into that. I've got one more thing, Matt. Before we ride off into the sunset, because it is sunny today.
On their dolphins.
You mentioned lockdown a second ago, and we've touched on it a bit during this. I want to know, what have been your worst lockdown habits? Because mine has definitely been drinking more alcohol. Not to a worrying level.
Can of Stella on the bedside table.
Yeah. Well, I know you and I both have purchased BrewDog.
Yeah.
Like a bit of BrewDog.
Love a bit of BrewDog.
Any other bad habits you've picked up?
I know, obsessively washing, maybe. No, not like full body washing, but sort of hand washing, I would say. It's this weird routine.
Is that a bad habit?
Well, no, it's good for hygiene purposes, isn't it? And I don't think I was particularly, what's the word? Unhygienic or stinky beforehand, but it is that sort of
stinky.
Like the process of having a beer, get the beer out of the fridge, get the with one hand, get the glass with the other hand, pour the beer, put it down, thing in the bin, washed my hands, or if I touch bin, I wash my hands. I guess that's not a bad habit. I would say probably, not that it's a habit, but one that I can slip into quite easily is being completely antisocial. I quite enjoy it, if I'm honest. I was talking about this earlier, and my wife was saying, "Oh yeah, it'd be good, now we can go out and meet people and stuff like that, and you should ring up one of your mates and go out for a walk or something."
I'm good.
Quite like being by myself.
I'm gonna go have another beer.
That's it. What do you mean it's 11 a.m?
You have got a lot of beers though, to be fair.
Not anymore because I drunk most of them. But
no.
Well,
surely not.
I call the brew dogs left. But it has been a sort of, I don't know. I don't think there's any particular awful habits apart from, I said, drinking more probably is probably the worst. But
more alcohol, yeah. But actually trying different beers, I think, has been quite positive.
We've got.
You have. You've tried probably all the different types of craft
all the beer in the world.
Yeah. But the BrewDog ones that I've had have been really nice, and there's.
What would your worst habit be though? Lockdown related.
Well, it probably would be. Mine probably would
drinking.
Be the drinking more. The snacking, I would say, that I usually would do if I was in the office or whatever, is probably reduced.
Apart from the fact I've definitely seen you eating biscuits or donuts at sort of 9:30 in the morning, so I don't know.
There was that one time.
Is it that it's close enough to breakfast? It's still part of that meal.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good attitude.
Yeah.
But I agree. Snacking, like sitting in an office environment, it's too easy to do. At home, never.
Yeah.
3 meals a day, bang, that's it. Don't entertain anything else.
And the other issue I've got is now that the football or soccer season is back up and running, I'm now constantly watching that. All other TV shows are off the table now. It's purely football. Whenever it's on, it's on. It doesn't matter who's playing. I'm watching it.
Yeah.
But I think I've done 3 months without it, so.
See, you've got to catch up, haven't you?
Yeah.
There's
I'm owed matches in lieu, so Well, I think that kind of wraps up this week's episode. If you do enjoy our show and you want to stay in touch, then please follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Just search for This Week in Metropolis, and you'll be able to keep an eye on when our new episodes drop. But other than that,
and I think a nice thing would be, as you said, to interact and contact us. If there are any subjects you would like us to cover, let us know.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are limits to what you can do, but yeah, it'd be good.
Well, thanks for listening, and we will speak to you again next week.
Goodbye.
Listening transmission over.